This Shabbos, the Shabbos before the beautiful holiday of Pesach, is called Shabbos HaGadol. Many reasons for this name are given. The Maharil explains that just as Yom Kippur is called Soma Rabbah, the great fast, since the day is long and filled with the saying of Piyutim and Tfilos, so too this Shabbos is a Shabbos HaGadol, a great Shabbos, because it is filled with drashos, reading of the Haggadah, and the learning of the laws of Pesach. The Tur in Siman Taf Lamed explains that this Shabbos is called Shabbos HaGadol because of the great miracle that occurred. When on that day, the 10th of Pesach, every Jew took and prepared his sheep for the Karban Pesach, and each Jew bound his sheep to his bedposts. The Egyptians asked, "What's the meaning of this act?" The Jews responded that they are going to bring the sheep as a Karban. The Egyptians were angered because to them sheep were holy, godlike, holy artifacts. A miracle occurred and the Egyptians' teeth were blunted. They said nothing. Because of this miracle, the Shabbos is called Shabbos HaGadol. Many ask if the Torah is actually correct, and this is the case. The primary essence of the day is left out of its name. It would have been more appropriate if the name were Shabbos of the Great Miracle. Perhaps one could add to the many explanations as to why it's called Shabbos HaGadol one more explanation. Regarding Shabbos, we say that it is a great and holy day. Similarly, with respect to a person, we find in Hebrew two appellations, Gadol, great, and Kadosh, holy. A holy person is one who is protected from sinning, insulated against sin and evil. We see this by Rebbe, who we call Rabbeinu HaKodesh, the holy rabbi, who with justification prior to his death lifted his 10 fingers and proclaimed, "Hashem, know that I didn't benefit from worldly pleasures with even my little finger," as we see in the Gemara Ksubos Kuf Daled. A holy person is one that is a parush, one who is isolated, one who is separated. Holiness is passive. Kedusha is defined as refraining from doing. However, Gedula, greatness, is a demonstration of action, of doing. Vayi sham l'goy kadol. They were there as a great nation. Malamed shahaya mutziyanim sham. This teaches us that they were outstanding there. Gedula, greatness, means excellence for extraordinary achievements. One who has learned a lot of Torah, knows, understands, remembers, and presents chidushim. One who writes svarim is worthy of the title a gadol in Torah. Similarly, one who gives a lot of charity is a gadol, great benefactor. One who is active for institutions, for the good of the Jewish people, for Torah and Israel, is a gadol. One cannot be a gadol by being passive, by not doing, not achieving. Shabbos has both properties, kadosh and gadol. By observing Shabbos and not doing that which is prohibited, by resting, one expresses the holiness of Shabbos. However, if one prays and learns Torah, if one shows joy and the pleasure of Shabbos, if one invites guests, then the day will be a gadol, great. Yeshua Heschel Wallerstein of Reisha states in his Sefer Kerem Yoshua that when Jews were still enslaved in Egypt, Moshe was successful in arranging a day off for them, a day of rest. Yismach Moshe b'matnas chalko. Moshe will rejoice with the gift that was his portion. Therefore, for them, the day of Shabbos was then a day of kadosh. But there came a time when the Jews were freed from their hard labor. The climax was this Shabbos, the 10th of Nisan. As the Zohar HaKodesh on Pashas Bo states, on the 10th day of Tishrei is a time when the Jubilee shines on the moon. 10th of Nisan is just like the 10th of Tishrei of the Jubilee year, when Jewish slaves were freed from Rosh Hashanah on. And they, the freed slaves, ate and drank, they rejoiced, and they wore their crowns on their heads. When the Shabbos of the 10th of Nisan arrived, Jews no longer needed just to rest. This day was then a great day in that they performed a positive action of faith and trust. They took and prepared the lamb for the Pesach offering. Similarly, today, Shabbos HaGadol must impress upon us that this and every Shabbos and holiday should be for us a day of holiness and greatness. In the first set of Luchos, the 10 Commandments, it states, Ki sheshes yamim asa Hashem es hashamayim ves haaretz. For in 6 days Hashem made the heavens and the earth. Vayanach bayom hashvi, and he rested on the 7th day. Al kein barach Hashem es yom haShabbos ve'kadsheu. Therefore Hashem blessed the Sabbath day and he sanctified it. In the second set of luchos, we read regarding Shabbos, V'zacharta ki eved hayisa be'eretz Mitzrayim, and you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. V'yotziacha Hashem elokecha misham b'yad chazaka uvizroa nituya. Hashem led you out of there with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. Al kain sivcha Hashem elokecha la'asos es yom haShabbos. Therefore Hashem, your God, commanded you to make the Shabbos day. Many ask, why did the sages institute that in our prayers of the Amidah for Shabbos, we only mention Zecha L'Maaseh Bereshis, a remembrance of the creation of the world? However, for Kiddush, we mention both Zecha L'Maaseh Bereshis, remembering the creation of the world, and Zecha L'Yitzias Mitzrayim, and remembering the exodus from Egypt. Rav Gershon Henoch Leiner, the Radzina Rebbe known as the Baal Tcheles, answers in his Sefer Sod Yesharim that there are two aspects of Shabbos. One aspect of Shabbos is permanently fixed. It was defined, established by Hashem. That aspect is a reminder of the creation of the world. Zecha L'Maaseh Bereshis. This is also the passive aspect, the Kedusha Shabbos, the holiness of Shabbos. And it is this aspect of Shabbos that we mention in our tefillos on Friday night in the Amidah, for it is then that we accept Kedusha Shabbos, taking upon ourselves a Shabbos of Isim Relacha, of ceasing to perform work. In Kiddush, we say Zecha L'Yitzias Mitzrayim, in remembrance of the exodus from Egypt. Kiddush signifies the Shabbos that the Jew alone defines and makes. La'asos es Yom HaShabbos, to make the day of Shabbos. This second aspect of Shabbos, of doing, is expressed in the Kiddush of Friday evening, an act of a Jew of being Mosif Michol al HaKodesh, adding from the mundane to the holy. The Jew looks at his wine, and it brightens his heart and his soul. This is the Shabbos HaGadol, of the remembrance of the exodus of Egypt. It will be a day of greatness and holiness. All of the Jewish holidays certainly are a reminder of the exodus from Egypt, but especially so Pesach, the extent that even Erev Pesach is considered already like a holiday, and when we bake our matzahs, Erev Pesach, we sing Hallel. We prepare in advance for all other holidays, but nothing compares to the preparations for Pesach. One cleans, washes, goes for a haircut, shaves, kashes, shops, cooks, and bakes. All is done with a joyous attitude. Pesach is even more outstanding for us, having in mind the needy. We give mo'as chitim, so that everyone should have a happy Pesach. Soon we will be sitting by the Seder and singing the 15 steps, Kadesh, Urachatz, Karpas, Yachatz, Magid, Rachsa, Motzi, Matzah, Maror, Korech, Shulchan Orech, Safun Barech, Halel Nirtzah. Interestingly, the steps are not listed in a passive form, Kiddush, Urachitza. Rather, is expressed in an active form, Kadesh, Urachatz. Zecha L'Yitzias Mitzrayim, the remembrance of the exodus from Egypt, is an action. It's doing. The holiday of Pesach should motivate us to always be active Jews, and we should merit the realization of the Navi's words in Haftarah. Hinei anochi shalech lachem es Eliyah hanavi lifnei ba hayom Hashem hagadol v'hanara. Behold, I send you Elijah the prophet before the great and awesome day of Hashem. Shabbat Shalom.